Let's start this. And so last time I think we have looked at the uh, just the introduction to Java, like features related to what we understood. What is platform independence? What is meant by platform independence? We understood about the use on web, and especially the applet as a component, fine, which made Java popular, fine, and then also object oriented programming, fine, the concepts of an object oriented programming. Yeah, the few terms which are involved in any object oriented programming, and namely we had understood about what is abstraction, right, what is polymorphism, what is data encapsulation, inheritance, fine, and also the relation between class and object, fine. So any questions? Fine, we'll proceed then. Fine. So today what we'll do is, as a introduction, uh, we'll look at how do we develop a Java application. How do we compile and execute a Java application? And also something about passing the command line arguments to a Java application. And if you have to pass some command line arguments, how are they taken in the Java application? And something more, which is about documentation part, generating the documentation. And so these are the kind of things which we'll look at, the commands which are available. We'll be working with the commands initially, and we may not be using tools directly. We'll just use the plain JDK. Fine. Okay. And we can always use the tools anyway, but we should understand the things which go on behind the scenes. Fine. So let's begin with creating an application in Java. Fine. Okay. So creating application. Okay. So how do we go about creating an application in Java? Fine. What is a Java application, right? So let's look at C language. How do we write an application in C? Yeah, where do we write it? Where do we write our applications in C language? In the header. We have a specific function which is used. Yeah. Which specific function? Which is used as an entry point where your application can be written. How did you write the hello world application for C language? We had to write a function. What was the name? Main. Fine. So even Java also, we need to write the application is written. Now we don't use the term function here. Fine. Instead, we have something called methods. Fine. We call them as methods. Okay. So in Java, our application has to be written in a method whose name is main. The name of the method is main. It is being case sensitive. Yes, the name of the method is main in lowercase. Okay, fine. But not any main would qualify as an application. It's not just, okay, I've written a method called main, so it doesn't qualify as a application. The main method has a particular method signature. The return type for the method should be void. Okay, fine. The parameters to that method should be of type array of string. Fine, an array of string. Fine. Any variable name could be used here. For example, someone says A here. Fine. It's just a parameter name. But the parameter is of type array of string. Fine. Not only this, the method has to be a public method which is static. And it is static as well as it is public. Okay. So a method whose name is main which is a public and static method having a return type void and parameter of type string array. Such a method in Java is also a application. This method is an application. Okay, fine. But unlike C, okay, where do we write this method? Oh, any application if you have to write, oh, we have to write someplace. We need a file, right? We need a file where we can store our code, Java code, whatever you are writing, the source code has to be in a file. Now, something about the Java file. Okay, what we know about a Java file is, what do we use a Java file for? If we have a Java file, the Java file is used only for 4 things. It's used for developing only 4 kinds of items. In a Java file, you could be defining a class, fine. You could have a class definition, you could have a definition for an interface, you could have a definition for the enums, or you could use a Java file to even define a annotation. At this moment, we are not looking into what each of these items is. But yes, of course, a very small and very simple syntax for defining any of these 4 items. That's what we'll be looking at. Okay, so when I have a Java file, in a Java file, any of these 4 things could be used. You use a Java file for any of these 4 things only. There's nothing other than this that you put in a Java file. Oh, where is the application? That was the method main. Where is the application? Well, I don't have a provision for an application here. I don't see that. The application, it is a method. Method is a member. Oh, methods are the members which go in these kind of items. What we have listed, that means in a Java file, you don't just put an application straight away. Fine. Like in C language, oh, what we'll do? Oh, open, write a main function. You can straight away put a main function in a C file, right? Not in a Java file. In a Java file, I can't just say, okay, let me put that public static void main here, and no, it won't compile. Because what you are putting is not a class. What you are putting is not a enum, an interface, or an annotation. What goes in Java file is one of those. Where does my application go? Being a method, it has to be a member of one of those 5 kind of items. Okay, fine. One thing, as far as these methods are concerned, okay, one of the attribute here is, it's a static method. Fine. We'll not understand the meaning of static at this moment. Fine. We have the time when we'll understand the meaning of that. But one thing about these 4 items is, oh, we can't have a static method in annotation. This does not support a static method. So one thing that's ruled out. Where do I put my application? If I want to define an application in Java, I'll have to create a class and then put it there. What do I put in the class definition? My application. It could be inside a enum. Fine. I define an enum and say, okay, this enum, let it contain a application, that method. And you could use enum also for defining a application. And like I put that, we have a restriction, right? Annotation cannot have a static method. Oh, we had that restriction even for interface. But from Java 8, that restriction is gone. Yes, Java 8 is a new thing, completely new thing. Okay, so if you have seen Java earlier, okay, you would have thought, oh, that interface can never have a method called main. I can't have. But from Java 8, all these 3 can contain, and they can have main. Right? Can have application. Where is the object? Do we have to create an object? Do we have to create an object in order to run an application? No. Yeah, it would still be. Yeah. Okay, fine, let's proceed. Uh, Clear? So we use a Java file for defining only one of those four items. Fine. And then the application which we talked about earlier, or application is nothing but a method main, that has to be a member somewhere in one of those three kinds of items. They can hold this. Fine. For this, it's only from 1.8 onwards. Okay. Fine. In any earlier version of Java, no, a interface cannot have the application. It can't contain a static method. Interface was not allowed to contain a static method, but that rule has gone. Fine. Interfaces can have static methods. Fine. We'll see what changes have come in Java 8. Fine. When we're looking at the interfaces, yes, we'll see the whole difference which has been done in Java 8. Okay. Fine. And why that difference has come, why such a change was required. Okay, we'll see that also. And there are reasons why why it was needed to be done. Clear? Fine. So now let's see how we can go about creating a application. So we can have example for application using all three kinds of things. So we can see the syntax, or we can even have, we can create all four kinds of items, doesn't make a difference. Okay, but then we would not all four will have the application. The last one will not contain an application, but we can always define such a thing. We can always define an annotation and not have an application. Okay, let's proceed further. Let's look at a few interesting things which are different from other languages and related to Java. Fine. Especially you might be making comparisons with C, C++. If you're making those comparisons, let's try to understand them. I think that's coming here. It's okay. Okay, so if I consider a Java file, right? Let's go for defining a class. A very simple way of defining a class. Fine. Will not have modifiers or anything. There are a lot of things possible. We are not currently discussing. Keeping the simplest of the syntax for our each of those three or each of the four items which can go in a Java file, right? So if I have to define a class, okay, inside a Java file, the syntax, very simple syntax would be, I just say class, fine. So for example, we want to have a class to hold our application. What we'll write as our application? We'll write an application which would print hello world. Okay, fine, the standard hello world thing. So let's go for that. So if I have to do such a thing, I can have a Java file. Okay, so let me create, this is my Java file. Let's give a name to the file. So we'll call it as hello.java, let's say. Okay, let's give the file name as hello.java. Okay, one thing, all Java source code has to be written in a file with the extension of .java only. No other extension allowed. For Java source code, extension has to be .java. Fine, in lowercase. Okay, so let's say we have this Java file and the content for that, oh, we can have, so I want to define a class, then I can just say class, let's call the class name as hello world. Okay, start the braces. So this braces starts the indication of, oh, the content of the class definition. What is inside my class definition? So as member of this class definition, I would like to put my application. Fine, we are interested in having an application. This class we are using it to define a application. Okay, so let's put application here. So what does application require? Oh, it has to be a public and static method. Return type is void. Name of the method has to be main. Parameter will be of type string array. And name of the parameter a. And then we have the body of the application. Fine. Inside the body, yes. How did we write our hello world for C language? We just said printf hello world backslash n. Okay. Here, oh, it's object oriented, deals with objects. So we need to mention an object. Okay. Where we would like to give the output. Fine. We're interacting with the object and saying, oh, put this in the output. So here we have the object of standard output. We have the standard output and we want to say, okay, print this. So the object of standard output is available by using this syntax. System.out is nothing but some object. This is an object, fine. This represents an object which is representing our standard output. This corresponds to the standard output object. And then what is the interaction we are having? What do we want to tell this? What's the interaction? Printf. Right? Printf. And the data to be supplied is, oh, what do we want it to print? Right? So dot do a printf. Okay. Yeah, printf. And then we have in double quotes we'll have a string, right? So it's saying, okay, print the string. Yeah, recollect even in C, printf was requiring a format string. It's our format string. Fine. Hello world and a backslash n. Recollect this? Hello world backslash n, printf hello world backslash n. That's what you're saying. And of course, just like C language, here also we have semicolon for the end of our statement. Fine. And here's the end of the method. Fine. We just wanted to do one statement. Okay. Simple application. Fine. Pick up the standard output object. Interaction is printf and the parameter supplied is hello world with a new line. Okay. Fine. So that's one member which we have put in the class called hello world. There could be other members which go here. Okay, but let's keep it here only to this much. Okay, so and then we have this. So that's our file. Just assume this is one case where we have a class definition inside a Java file, and that class definition contains the application. Right? The class definition. Let's see. How do we compile this? The compiler will be, so we give the command as Java C for invoking the Java compiler. We give the file name Java C. The file name is hello.java. Okay, when we compile a Java file, what's the output? Java bytecode. Fine. It will generate Java bytecode and the name of the file will have an extension of, the extension would be dot class. If we compile a Java file, the output generated by the compiler when we use Java C, if it compiles successfully, okay, the output generated will have will be nothing but a file with the extension of dot class. Oh, what will be the name of that file? Oh, yeah. The name of the file, this is hello.java. What's the output when I compile this?
First thing, it will give an error, I guess, because the
Class
class is not public.
is not public. But you can't have a non-public class.
Because we have a main method, we need to define the class to be public. It is the starting point of the application.
So
Name of the class and file are different. Yeah, that is also different. And What I know is main method. Whenever you define main method, you should have a class.
The two of you are saying, one is saying that the file should match the class name, the other one is saying it should be a public class.
This file should
Now,
also
when I look at both the requirements, then probably is correct what you are saying. One wants it to be a public class, the other wants the file name to match the class name, and that requirement where file name should match the class name is a requirement if your class was public and you want it to be a public class. Okay, the idea here is since you do not, it's the class which you are defining is not a public class, it's not necessary that the file name should match the class name. Okay, now tell me. So it's going to compile, let me tell you, this is going to compile. Okay, fine. So now can you guess what is the name of the file? The output file? The file generated would be hello world.class.
because it has a main method.
It's not because we have a main method. We have a class file for every class definition. This is one class definition. Hello world. Oh, you have used string. What is string? It's name of a class. Somewhere in the Java library, it's a Java library class. Somewhere in the library which is provided, there is a string.class also. The file is string.class. You have used a class called system here, system.out. Within that class, there is one variable out, which is nothing but the object corresponding to the standard output. That system is a class, is the name of a class. Somewhere in the library, we have got system.class as a file. One thing, every type has its own separate class file. You define a class, it will have its own class file. The class file doesn't correspond to a method. Fine. It's not like that executable. Oh, you have so many C files, all of them. Oh, you have so many functions and other things. Or even in case of C++, also you might have so many different classes over there, but the final output is a single executable. No, it's not that way. Here, every type, we are going by types. Fine, what you are defining is type. You are creating new data types. We talked about object-oriented programming being about defining your own data types. Each data type is portable. You created a type, distribute it. You have your class definition, right? Which is nothing but your own data type. It has its own operations which you would like to support. You have created such a thing. You can give it to others. Okay, that's my class. It's not necessarily an application. It's not necessarily having a main method. Do you think string class has a main method? Oh, but it's a class. So you have classes without a main method. It has its own separate existence. It's a type. When you define a class, you are creating a new data type. When you are defining an interface, you are creating a new data type. When you define an enum, you are creating a new data type. These are all about creating your own data types. Each of those. So we use a Java file only for defining types. There's nothing else you are doing. It's all about types. And main, that specific method, special method, is used as an entry point to start the execution. That's where you are writing a program which would in turn use the various data types. Fine. Clear? The output is The output is hello world dot class. And this hello world comes from the name of the class. Fine. So one for every class definition or every type definition, where I'm considering type as 4 items: a class, interface, enum, or annotation. You put any of those definitions, they have their own. When you compile them, if there is a successful compilation, you will get a class file corresponding to each of these types. Okay. Second thing was about public. Oh, file name matching the class name. Oh, I want to define a public class. I want hello world to be a public class. If you want, see, it's your decision whether the class which you want to define, should it be a public class. Once you decide that this should be a public class, then it is mandatory that your file name should be of that same name as the class name. Not otherwise, it's not necessary. This should compile.
But by default, it's in Java. All classes are public.
By default,
By default,
by default,
if you
when you say by default, it is default.
It's a friend.
Default is default. Default is different from public.
Default is the keyword.
You want a public, make it public. You don't want it public, don't keep it public.
Then it will be a friend.
It's not public. It's not private. It's not protected. It has its own type, the default. We got 4 accesses. You could have a thing, but that's not for this one. A class, because it's a class, fine, which is at the top level, this could either be public or it can be non-public. Fine, you call it as default. Fine. Okay, so Java file. So just a few things which I wanted to, break the concepts like, oh, file name should match a class name. No.
Java C and
Yeah.
Java.
Hello.java. Because that's a file. What we will give to the compiler? A file.
यदि वो फिर create करता है यानी generate करता है hello world class.
Hello world class. Because when it compiles this, it's looking at this name. I have to create a definition, a class definition for hello world.
और जब हम Java hello world class.
Yeah, now what do we write? Okay, how do we execute the code? Yeah, let's check that out. Right? That's for compiling. For executing this, we'll use the Java runtime available with the command Java. Okay, and then what do we give? Name of the type. And okay, it could have been an interface, it could have been an enum, which could contain my. So when I say Java followed by a name of a type, so I'm not giving a file name here, okay? It's name of a type. This name comes from this place. Fine. You could try Java hello world. What will be done when you say Java hello world? What will it do? It starts the Java runtime, and then whatever name you have supplied here, what will it do? It will look for a class definition. Can I load such a class? Not only that, there are 2 things will happen. First thing, I don't find such a class. Okay, that's an error. If I find such a class, I load it, and the second step, the second error which is possible.
Check its public or
No.
The command
What you give here has to be a type. Okay, let me give the other thing. Suppose, because I give any class name or interface name or anything, someone tries like this, someone says Java string. Oh. I load the class called string. Yeah, I can load that. What's missing? That's it. Yeah, you need, it's going to check that you don't have the method called main here. So first thing, load the class. Does it have an application? Does it have a method which is declared to be public, which is declared to be static, whose return type is void, the name has to be main, the parameter has to be of type string array. If such a class exists, okay, that's the one which I'll call. Oh, if I have to call the method called main, what is needed? What's necessary for invoking this method? What's the input to this method? What's the input? Array of string. What's the input to that? An array of string. So it has to create an array of string now. First step, load the class. Second step, check for application. If the application exists, third step, create an array and invoke it. How will it create the array? The array should have strings. When it has to create array with string objects. Here, if I have given this command, and this is the command which I have given, it will create an array of string with 0 elements. The number of elements will be 0. It will be an array which it will be creating with number of elements. How many elements in that array? Oh, there are 0 elements. Okay, see here you have A. Now it's going to invoke this and pass it. So it's available in your method as A. What's available here? The string array which was created. Fine. You could use here, fine, within this, you could use, if this is an array, right? A is an array type. You could use A dot length to know how many elements do we have in the array. And in Java, you can use, for any array type, you can use that array name dot length to know how many elements are there in the array. Now, if this is the way you given the command, there are 0 elements in the array, not null, 0 elements in the array. So it creates that array and invokes this main method, executes this, passing. So the value of A will be the array of size 0. And then executes this, finishes the execution, comes out. Clear? 3 things. Load class, look for main. Fine, first step can fail because such a class doesn't exist. Second step can fail because you don't have an application. If first 2 steps succeed, yes, it will create a array. How it is creating array, we'll come to that, and invoke the method. And that's the third step, is where the invocation is happening. But before that, it has to create an array. Now, how the array is created? Here I said, if that's a command, the length is 0. But someone could say Java hello world, and then in the command cell he is saying what happens now? In the third step, what will happen? In the third step, because you use this, it is creating in the third step, it's creating an array of string. That's the array which is created and given to A, given to your application. It's picking up from the command line. Fine, so the parameter which we are having is used for receiving the command line arguments. In your application, the parameter, which is a string array, is used for receiving the command line arguments. Clear? Application. Fine. Meaning of static and public will become clear as we go along. And at this moment, okay, for an application, it has to be this way. Fine.
Still, I have a doubt.
Yeah.
I remember as far as any file
Yes.
can have number of classes.
Yeah, we are coming to that.
And
Yes.
at least one should be public.
Where is that at least one should be public? I can even have a Java file with no classes at all.
Yeah, you can have that, but for execution,
Then where is one public class?
for
You are missing that.
having the starting end point for that file.
Oh, we are writing a Java file for defining classes, for defining data types, not necessarily an application. You have a file string.java containing only one class definition, the class called string. Of course, it's a public class, doesn't have a main. Don't link anything with application. Some class may have an application, some class may not have an application. Fine. A Java file is not necessary to have a main, and the one which has a main is my starting point. Some classes will have a main, right? String is a class someone has defined, doesn't have a main, someone else is using it. You are creating data types. It's all about creating data types. Object-oriented programming, all about data types.
Right now, we are not looking like a practice type of concept.
Hmm?
Right now, we are not looking at a practice type of concept of this class.
We'll see package also, but no,
Not
nothing. Yeah, will come later. Yeah, it will come. Okay, but this is clear. Fine. Now, the second thing which you're talking about, you mentioned a single Java file containing
public.
multiple
Yeah.
definitions. So let's see that, and let me put on a fresh page. So let's have, so we'll still continue with the file called hello.java. Okay, fine. So we continue with the file called hello.java and do something like this. And that's our file, and in this file, the content. So okay, so yeah, we can have a class. So we have the class. So we have our old class called class hello world, which contains public, static, returns void, name of the method is main, parameter is a string array. Any parameter name could have been used. I just say a here, fine. And then, yeah, here we had written system dot out dot printf, and we're saying hello world, right? And backslash n, hello world, sorry, backslash n, semicolon. Fine. That's a statement we are having for. We continue further in the same Java file and use it to define what? Let's say the interface. Okay, because from Java 8, fine, this would work from Java 8. So you have interface, we can't give the same name, so let's give hello interface. We use the name as hello interface. In the interface, what do we give? Let's have our, fine. So let's have our application. So application is written as public, static, return type is void, name of the method has to be main, parameter will be of type string array. You could use any parameter name, you could repeat, you could still say A, or you could use B or anything else. Any parameter name you like, fine. And now let's do something different. So first statement, let's keep it as system.out, pick up that object. Now in system.out, just like we have a printf, similar to the printf of C language, we even have where we have to use backslash n at the end. instead of putting backslash n at the end, you have a method here called println also. It's saying print with a new line. But in println, the difference between printf and println is, in case of println, you only have one parameter. Fine. With printf, it's a format string, and then format string can contain %d, %s, and all those things. Same one. But then it would have other parameters, more than one parameters in that case. So in println, only one argument, one.
less n, both are same.
With backslash, it's like when I say println, it's like saying with backslash n. New line automatically appended. Okay, so with println, I would not have to use a backslash n. I'll just be saying hello world, double quotes, no backslash n here, semicolon. Okay, so I print, oh, I've said hello world. I actually wanted a hello interface. Fine, let it be. You could make a change. Fine, instead of hello world, fine, you could put it as hello interface. Okay, let's say we'll put hello interface just to make a difference. Fine.
All methods can be given definition now in interface. All the methods in the interface can be given.
This one is a static method.
So static methods
Static
can
method, if it's a static method, yeah, it would have.
no, like
Earlier, interface had only abstract method. Abstract methods do not have a implementation. But all other methods will always have an implementation. This is not an abstract method.
yes, but in interface there was a restriction because all methods will be abstract.
Abstract. So that's what has been removed. You can have static method as well. Static method would have implementation.
Okay, this is the
If it's an abstract method, if it's still going in interface, that would not have an implementation.
okay, only static methods can have
Only static methods can have.
implementation.
No.
Earlier we never had.
Only abstract methods will not have implementation. Only abstract methods will not have implementation. Okay, not that only static method will have implementation.
In interface by default, all the methods would have been abstract.
Were abstract. Yes, now we are allowed to have static as well as another kind of method which is known as the default method.
Okay, they can also.
Yes, they will have implementation.
What is the difference between class and interface?
Class and interface.
Or
Interface, okay, it's related to multiple inheritance, right? So that difference is remaining. And okay, fine. We'll discuss when we look at interface, fine. At this moment, let's go with the application, trying to understand the application. Fine, so println. Okay, let's do one more thing. Since we know about command line arguments, fine. So let's do one more thing. Let's use system.out.println, and you might just say a.length, so that you are printing how many command line arguments are there, how many command line arguments have been received, right? And then let's use some knowledge of writing the for loop. Okay, let's try writing some for loop. So we go with something like this: for int I equals 0, okay, I less than a dot length, semicolon, I plus plus, okay. And in this loop, let's use system dot out dot println. Yeah, we want to print, we have only a single argument, right? So hello plus, so I'm making one expression here which would be of type string. Okay, so hello plus a of I. So string concatenation, so it's a single string. A of I, that's the end of my for loop, and we can have the end of our method definition, and then we can have the end of interface definition. And someone could go further and we can extend this Java file further. Fine. So see one thing, same one Java file. Oh, but we have two main methods, two types, but they are in different data types. Each type has its own separate class file. When it will be compiled, right? If I compile this state of the Java file, what's the output? So it will have how many class files? Two. Hello world.class, hello interface.class. When I want to run the earlier application, Java hello world. When I want to run this particular application, Java hello interface. Right? Each one is a separate unit. Each class interface enum annotation. Separate entity altogether. Fine? They appear in the same Java file. That's fine. But each one is a separate, has its own separate class file. Clear? Okay, so let's have one Java file with so many things. Okay. And none of them is public.
Interfaces by default.
Where have I declared it public?
Interfaces by default.
No.
That restriction has gone to.
There is a restriction. Earlier also it was like that. But what we have is a different thing. What you are talking about interfaces. The members inside interface are always public. Okay, that is that main method. If I had not declared it public, it would still have been fine. It would have still been considered to be public because it appears inside an interface. Fine. I put main as public, right? Even if I didn't put for the interface, the compiler is going to make it and consider it as public only because it's inside an interface. Anything inside interface, oh, they're all public. Okay, fine. The third kind of thing, enums. Okay, let's have an example of an enum also. Only for containing, the purpose of enum is different, but here we are trying to use it for as a holder for a application, a placeholder for application, right? So application placeholder can be a class, application placeholder can be an interface, application placeholder can be a enum also. So let's see this. To define an enum and non-public.
But still, sir,
Yeah.
if I have, let's say, in one file I have 4 classes.
Yeah, none of them public, or
Yeah,
at the most one can be public. That's what I'll put
Yeah,
it.
according to you, none of them are public, right?
May not be,
A,
yes,
B, and C, D. Let's say I have
yes,
4 classes.
and it is
Now-
x.java.
Yeah, and now
Yeah, having
in
A, B,
I
C.
have D, 4 classes.
A dot Java, sorry, class A, class B, class C, class D, none of them public inside x dot Java.
Yes.
Okay, you compile Java C x dot Java. What's the
Now,
output?
in A, I have main method.
Okay.
And B, C, and D are all like creating an object. There is some object and invoking, dependency in the class.
Does a class create an object? No. You need a method which is doing something.
Method. I have.
So they have a member which is a method,
Yes,
right?
Yes. In B,
What
C,
kind of method is it?
They are all public and our defined, user defined, not main methods. Okay.
Oh, main is also user defined. You are defining
Yeah,
it.
we are defining, and
yeah.
we can further define also. But let's say it's a.
Okay,
default-
some other method M1, M2, M3.
Yes.
Okay.
And they are all invoking to the class A any method or variable. Let's
They're invoking
yes. They are all
method
like,
main.
subtype-
Class A has only main, right?
Yes.
So they can only invoke as far as
Yes,
class A is
yes.
concerned, they'll say A dot main.
Yes.
But if they say A dot main, they'll need to have an array
Let's
of
say
string.
I have A and I have in A class I have main method, right? In B
Right.
I have some M1 method. In C, I have some M2 methods.
M1,
C,
M2, are they
and
static or non-static? What kind of methods are they?
all are static.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now in main method,
Yes.
I create an object and
Why
then
do you want to create an object since all these methods are static?
okay,
I don't need to
directly
create.
call the
Yes.
B1
From method main,
main. I call B1's M1 method, right?
b1.m1.
Yes.
Yes.
Still, it will execute fine. There is still not required class A to be
Hmm.
public.
No,
No.
no.
Okay. Because I
Yeah, yeah.
tried this.
We'll
thing,
see this. You
Uh,
can try
in
and show me.
1.4
Yeah.
when I was using 1.1.
Oh, 1.4 was still lenient. 1.4 was still lenient to the extent that even if the main was not declared to be public, it was still acceptable earlier versions.
It was acceptable, but the
Yeah.
thing
But
was
now that
one
restriction,
class
you,
has to be public in that Java file.
no,
And
no,
I
no,
think
that was
the
never there.
restriction.
Mhm. We always have been using this example, right? I have been using this example right from Java 1.2. And even with 1.1, I have done this.
No, I have to.
We have been writing hello.java with the class hello world right from 1.1. All versions, it works. Okay, fine.
I'll try. I'll definitely try.
Definitely, yes, sure. Okay, fine. So let's look at the definition of an enum. Fine. Just a quick look at that. So we'll have enum. Let's call it as the name of the enum. Let's call it as hello enum. Okay. Inside the body of the enum. Okay. Now, enums. The purpose is different. Fine. Normally, a enum is used for not numerical. They have a numerical association as well, but it's used for those kind of classes where the number of objects are always fixed. It's like prefabricated objects. It's nothing but enum is nothing but a class with prefabricated objects. Those are pre-created only. You can't have any other object, any more objects of that enum type. The objects are always listed.
Number of objects are fixed or
Yes.
objects are fixed?
Example, days of a week.
7.
We'll have only 7 objects. And which are those 7 objects? That's been fixed, prefabricated, pre-created. No one has to say new and create an object. Those are pre-created. Those objects are going to be available pre-created only. And no more objects of this. Fine? That's what an enum is for. So enum always have one thing, they have a list of objects. First part will be what objects will be there, what objects will this will contain. That is the first part of the enum. So enum basically has 2 parts. First part is the list of objects, followed by the second part, which is the definition, similar to a class definition. So you could have a list of objects. Since we don't need objects in this case, fine, I'll end the first part by putting a semicolon. Fine. Before semicolon, you are supposed to list all your objects separated by comma. So you could have an object list A, comma B, comma C. Fine. We'll be looking at enums in detail later on. Fine. So, fine. I don't have any objects, put a semicolon. And then comes the definition. What's the definition? I want to have a method called main. So put the definition. Parameter is a string array. And some parameter name, let me call B in this case. And you could use any name, parameter name. And let's have system.out.println, and I'll keep it simple. Just say hello enum. Okay. And that's the end of my application. That's the end of my enum. You got how many members in your Java file till now? Three. We have hello world, which is a class. We have hello interface, which is an interface. We have hello enum, which is a enum. Let's also have a annotation. So we have at least one of each type. Of course, the annotation would not be allowed to have a static method. So we won't be having application there. Fine. So let's continue further and have how do I define annotation? So just to understand how to define annotation, defining annotation syntactically slightly it is closer to defining an interface, and the way to define is like this. You start with @ interface and name of the annotation. So the name, let's call it as hello annotation. At this moment I'm not interested in, I'm just interested in just okay, oh, how do I create an annotation? Start braces. I don't want any member in this annotation, and braces. We got 4 things in our Java file. Without static, no, it won't be allowed. There are rules about what goes in an annotation. You can have abstract methods only. From methods point of view, you can have only abstract methods, and that too, no parameters to those methods, with 0 parameters. All methods here with 0 parameters. And the return type for the method also is a limited list. You can't have anything other than those types. Okay, fine. So annotations are different things altogether. Fine. Okay, so that's the Java file we have. Fine. And then with this Java file, the command, what's the command? How do we compile this? Java C hello.java, that's the file. What's the output? Oh, there will be 4 class files, and they should give us 4 class files. One will be hello world dot class. It will have hello interface dot class. It should have hello enum dot class. It would have hello annotation dot class. Fine. So 4 class, that's the output of compilation. Now we have only 3 applications. We have written only 3 main. Any one of them, they are available in 3 different places. You want to run which application? So accordingly, you will say Java followed by the first one, the second one, the third one. If I try Java hello annotation, what will it say? The first step, loading. Oh, I find this class definition. It's able to load hello annotation. Second step, look for the main. No main. Come out. I don't find the main. Okay. Also, what you could do is, just you could try out. Suppose I put a main here. It will give compilation error, but read the error message. Right? Good to read them. It will immediately come. Oh, it's an annotation. You can't have a static method in this. So no, you learn Java from error messages. Right? Clear on this? Okay. Now one thing what I have done is I put you on a wrong habit. What's the wrong habit? A wrong habit here is having the file name different from the type you are creating. It's a wrong habit I put you in. It was just to break the concept. If you are fixing it, no, it's not necessary. But It's always a good practice and good idea to have file name matching the class name. Always a good idea, even if it's not public. Even if it's not public. And the reason for that, there are a few reasons why it helps. Right? Okay. Fine. Not now. No, 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 no. Not looking at annotations.
Which version has that?
Annotation starts from Java 5 onwards.
So we are not going to look in Java 8.
And defining annotation?
Later
No.
on, in any class, do we have annotation?
We don't normally have, but we could keep one to understand what annotation is for. Right? Okay, I'll do one thing. Here itself, having done this, if you want to use annotation, this annotation, we've created an annotation which is usable, okay? It's usable. It's not something which is not usable, it's usable right here itself. So if you want, you can try this and it won't complain. You were interested in making your class to be public. I'm not giving the modifier public to you at this moment. Even the Java would say, oh, you're not having the file name matching the class name, but we have so many other modifiers which could go for a class, right? You could make it, you could have made it final, you could have made it abstract, and all such kinds of things are possible. Okay, fine. But then, so those are all modifiers. Now, just what we have done with the annotation is we have created our own modifier. Annotation is your user-defined modifier. But the meaning of this modifier is not known to the Java language. It's not about the Java language. It can't change the meaning of the Java language anywhere. It can't change the semantics of the language. But it is a modifier which is useful to you, which you will have to write your own utilities, okay, or your own tools which would utilize them. Okay, but having defined annotation called hello annotation, you could have done like this. You could have said, this interface is @ hello annotation. It doesn't sound good, but if you are interested in using it, this is something which is valid. Instead of hello annotation, okay, let me have an annotation by the name difficult. I'll just say @ interface difficult. I want to mark this to be a difficult thing. This interface is difficult, @ difficult. It's your own modifier. You want to be able to mark the various things to be something to be difficult, and you say, oh, this is difficult. How do I mention that? Either I put a comment and then in the comment, but who will know the comment? We don't have tools which will process the entire content of the comment and do something. And whether someone follows the same spelling or not. Now, this is something which will be checked by the compiler. Yes, you have used the proper annotation. What you have used as a modifier is an existing valid annotation. Deriving meaning out of it is your lookout. You should have your tools to do them. And you should be having your own tools to do that. Clear? Annotations not used as a data type normally, it's used like a modifier. And it goes along with the modifiers, but the convention has been to always use annotation first in a separate line and then follow up with the modifiers, whatever you want. So if I'm having a public interface, I could have said public and then @ hello annotation and then put interface and interface name. That's possible. Fine, I could have, you can mix up, it's a part of the modifiers. But convention has been to use annotation in a separate line initially, followed by your other modifiers.
Is there any restriction to use it as a modifier, or it can
No.
go with variable methods?
When someone defines annotation, with the annotation definition, he could have said this annotation is only for class, this annotation is only for method, or this annotation, you can specify the target. Okay, so we are not looking at that, but yes, okay, it's all possible.
I can means
Yes.
user can give the restrictions if he or she.
The one who is defining, fine, says, okay, it's meant for methods.
Java doesn't have its own restrictions for the annotation.
Java says create them. Right? And when you create, the one who creates, for the, there's a provision where you can specify, okay, this one is, right? Okay, so at this moment, no, we are not using, you, if you want, you can just try it, but fine, this one, you may or may not try, that's okay. Fine, so one part is, okay, with compiling, executing a Java application. What is a Java application? What goes in a Java file? 4 items. Fine. A very simple definition for each of them. Fine. In this case, what we have done is we have not put any kind of member other than an application, but all of those 4 will have other kinds of members as well. When I define a class, it's not that we'll have a class with only an application alone. The other members which can go in interface also, enum also. There's so many other things which will go. Fine. At this moment, we have only put application. If it has to be put inside a class, inside interface, or inside enum, how we use it, that's the way. Fine. As far as interface is concerned, static methods have been allowed only from Java 8. Okay, fine. So conventionally, people only use class as a placeholder for a application. You can use all 3. Clear? Okay. Now, when you do your exercises, okay, let's follow some discipline. Fine. So a few things now. Again, back to compiling and executing. Fine. Organizing your code. Okay. See, whenever we do any development, it's for a project or something. Fine. You'll have a separate folder. Organizing your things properly, right? So you would normally have some separate folder. And for example, in our case here, okay, what we'll have is we'll have a folder. Maybe normally I give names to the batches here. So you can have an home folder. Maybe you'll have a folder called Java 1604. Okay. And just giving as an example, or instead of this, just consider if you are developing a project, you will have a folder for the project. Okay, so consider this as your folder for a project. Now, in the folder of the project, what you would do is you will have one separate folder to keep all the Java source code. Okay, so normally we give the name as SRC. Okay, now we don't like to keep the class files along with the source code. Okay, we keep them separately. So you should also have another folder called bin folder. Okay, fine. So create one folder called SRC, create one folder called bin. When you want to save the Java file, that hello.java, save it under SRC. So under SRC, you should be having a file called hello.java. So let me assume you have created and saved your file hello.java under the SRC folder of Java 1604. Okay, now how do I compile? Fine. And you also have a folder called bin. Okay, now what you should always do is, fine, when using command line for doing all the job, okay, on the command line, what you do is use the cd command. So from wherever you are, change directory to the folder for Java 1604 /src. I'm following slash because I use Linux. If it's Windows, you'll be using \. Okay, fine. So from wherever it may be, but manage to go to the SRC folder, change directory to the SRC folder, fine, the place where you got the Java file. And then for compiling, you'll give the command as javac Okay, currently in SRC, so we have a switch with the Java C where we can say -d, the destination. -d is nothing for destination. The destination folder is, where is the destination? Dot dot from SRC, one step up, slash bin. What is to be compiled? Hello.java. Right? When you do this, the class files are automatically created under the bin. Fine. Now, in order to execute, you don't need to go to the bin folder. Not necessary to go to the bin folder. And you don't need to change the directory. If you want to execute the Java application, use this command Java followed by another switch called -cp. -cp stands for class path, the path from where classes can be loaded. If I have to load classes other than the library classes, where will I find them? You can be specifying multiple things here. You could be specifying multiple locations. Okay, with -cp, next part will be to specify from where classes, if I have to load classes, from where will I load? So you're saying you will find your classes in dot dot slash bin because you are currently in SRC. I'm not asking you to change the directory from there. Okay, and then give the name of the class which is needed to be loaded and from where it should be able to locate the application. So give the application class. Let's say, for example, you might give hello world. And use these names as case sensitive things. And you can pass command line arguments. Fine, this is okay? Okay, now another thing. At this time, yes, we have only one type of member going in our class definition, right? But just think about classes in general. Like you have a class called string, right? So like string class, which is from the library, you will also be developing your own classes and they would have so many members. What you would be distributing to your friends would be the class file. You probably may not be distributing the source code, right? And then just the class file. How does he know what methods do I have in this? How does he know how to use those methods, what those methods need? So just giving class file is not good. You need to prepare a documentation and give it along with your class file. So these are my class files, these are the types I have created, but how to use them, what are the methods each one contains, what various other members they have. It's not only methods, but other members will also be possible. Fine, what members they should be able to use and how they should be using it. We need to prepare a documentation and then give it along with it. Fine. So be aware of this. Now what? Oh, I have written code. I'll also have to prepare documentation. And oh, while writing the documentation, I forgot that bracket. I forgot there was two arguments and I've used only one. I've described only one of them. I misspelled some method name. Fine. I forgot some methods. I forgot to put them in the documentation. I put some method, but that is not there, missing. So it's better we use some kind of a tool. So with JDK, there comes some tools for preparing nice good looking HTML documentations. Okay, fine. So for our initial, even with the initial thing where we don't have much, we could still be trying this command, this utility, which is part of the JDK, to generate documentation. We have at least 4 items here, right? And we can generate documentation for them. So to generate documentation, the command is java doc. Okay, we have the command as java doc. Again, like we use -d as destination, here also we will use -d. And normally the documentation will be a number of files. It's not a single file which will be created by the utility java doc. It will be creating a number of HTML files, some GIF files, and other things will be created for us. Okay, so we have -d dot dot. I'm assuming we are still in src / docs, and then give. Okay, in our case here we are saying hello.java. You could use star.java if you have multiple files. You could give multiple files together. Even while compiling, when I say Java C, it's not necessary I'm compiling one file at a time. You could compile multiple Java files together. You could be saying star.java there also, right? While compiling. Same thing here. While preparing the documentation, you could have said star.java. You have multiple files, or list each of those one by one. This.java, other thing, this.java, a.java, b.java. You could give all of them. And multiple Java files can be specified for your Java C as well as for Java doc. Okay, fine. Here, when you say multiple things after -bin, fine. When you specify multiple things, the first one will be considered as the class name, and rest of the things will be considered as parameters, command line arguments. Okay, so don't ask me whether we can give multiple classes for execution. Okay, whatever you give first one, that's the one where it will look for the main. Rest of the things, whatever names you have given, are the command line arguments for the main. Okay, so fine, creating a documentation. So what does this documentation contain? This documentation will contain, on one side, it will contain list of all the types. Fine. So it will say hello world, hello interface, hello enum, hello annotation. You can click on any of those and a description of each of those will appear. Oh, how will you get the description from? Oh, you want some description to come? No, it can't build stories. Okay, so if you want some description to appear, it would be plain documentation lacking all the descriptions, unless you have put them in your source code. Source code is for writing Java, right? In source code, how do I put descriptions? It will not follow the Java syntax, right? So for including descriptions in your source code, which is picked up by the Java doc utility, the Java doc will pick up descriptions from the source code. See, it can pick up Java syntaxes. It knows, oh, you put a method, what's the method signature, what's the return type, parameters, right? That it will be able to pick up. It will be able to pick up whether it is public and static. The keywords from Java, all that it understands. It understands the syntax from Java. But then the description of the method itself, right? If you want to include such a thing, you have to include that using what is known as a documentation comment. So you can include documentation comment inside your Java file. And we can include documentation comments inside the Java file. Let's see, how do we specify a documentation comment? Oh, how do we write comments, right? I'll just give a few examples. How do we write comments? So we normally know two types of comments in Java. In C language, right? We are used to two types of comments. We are used to // which is known as a single line comment. And what's the other one?
star.
We have the slash star, but with the slash star, we have the idea of this is known as a block comment and can span over multiple lines. Fine, within line itself, but yes, it has a start and an end. Fine. In case of slash slash, the end is always the end of line. It ends with the end of line. Single line comments always end with the end of line. Okay. Now the block comments are fine. Okay. But what we have here is we have a documentation comment, which is a special case of a block comment. So block comment is slash star, right? So what we have is a documentation comment is nothing but when you start with 2 stars, a block comment which has slash double star. You have your star slash. This is what we call as a documentation comment. And you got your documentation comment which is slash star.
Ends with a single
Slash double star.
and it's
Star slash. It's a block comment, just it's a block comment only. Only thing is star or one more star after that in the beginning. Slash double star. Okay, so that's a documentation comment. But this documentation comment behaves like a block comment unless it appears at the proper place. Yeah. Unless it appears at a proper place. Yes, it is for describing something. It should appear just before what you are trying to describe. It's a documentation for something which you are describing. Or you want to write a documentation to describe the class definition. Okay, you are writing a description of the class. Just before the class definition, put this comment. Just before the method definition, put a documentation comment. So that will be linked. So it's a description for my method. For any member. Now inside the method, I am writing a for loop. Now that's not something which is to be picked up as a documentation comment. Just before a for loop, if I put my documentation comment, it's just a block comment only. And you are able to describe a class and what are the various methods, what are the operations I will be able to perform, right? A type and what are the operations I should be able to perform with the type. Recollect? Object-oriented programming, the various methods. Fine. Now just one more thing which is related to the command itself, the javadoc command, a few things here. When I try javadoc with hello.java, this one, with the kind of hello.java which we have written, it will say, there's nothing to document. It's not going to produce any output. And the reason is something, it says, oh, there are no public members here. What do I document? By default, it will generate documentation only for the public members. So there are no public classes, and therefore I don't create any documentation. You want this to generate a documentation even for the non-public ones? Fine. The way hello.java is, I still want to go ahead and generate documentation. I would like to ask it to create documentation even for the non-public members by using a switch. So we have said one switch is -d to specify the destination. You can add one more switch to this called minus package. If I say minus package, I'll be able to manage to get some documentation out of it. Fine. Clear? Slash, I'm using slash everywhere. That's because I'm assuming Linux. Replace it with backslash, right, for Windows platform. Clear about the 3 tools, 3 commands, Javac, Java, and the javadoc commands. Fine. You should be able to try all these three things. And the code which I have written plus all of these things. Okay, and you should be experimenting with other things also. Fine. You should be. Okay. Now, one of the things I was mentioning was it's not a good idea. I put you on a wrong path by saying not to use public things. Fine, but always, why it is good to have class name matching the file name. Whether public or non-public is separate aspect. Fine, it's your requirement. Fine, sometimes you may like to have non-public classes. Okay, sometimes it might be your need. No, I don't want this class to be public. Even in the Java's library, there are so many classes and many of them are not public. Fine. Okay, so having non-public classes has its own purpose. So yeah, you have a, but one thing what is normally done is Java file name matching the class name. Why? Okay, fine, you should try this, okay? Okay, but then leave this habit. Come back to having file name matching the class name. And I'm not saying go for public classes right from the beginning. Right? We'll switch to public classes when the time comes. And you can have the non-public classes initially. Okay, fine, but why file name matching the class name? Let's try to understand this. Okay, for that we're just trying to look at how the compiler is behaving. Okay, so you got just as a experimental case, let's say we have some class called A, and class A is being defined, and inside the class A, I'm not writing the definition of A, but somewhere it is dependent on class B and class C. It depends on class B and class C. Okay, fine. It needs string system, maybe other classes, but they are the library classes, it's fine. It would be able to locate them. Now, when I compile a.java, not a.java, whatever x.java which contains this definition of A, fine. I'm trying to compile this. What will it depend on? Because you have defined, we have used B, we have used, and maybe with B, when I say I'm using B here, I'm using some methods of B. I'm making some usage of C also. Okay. So when I'm using B and C, the compiler will need to check whether you have used B and C correctly or not. That means compiler needs to be compiling B as well as C also, if they have not already been compiled. Unless it compiles, it can't do the checking. That means compiling A is also resulting in compiling of B and C. Okay, now what the compiler does here is, one option is, when I compile, one option is, oh, all three in the same Java file, then it's fine. Whatever file you are compiling contains the definitions which it is dependent on. Otherwise, when I compile, I'm assuming A is in x.java, B is in y.java, and C is in z.java. We are not following class name matching the file name. And therefore, when I have to compile, I'll say Java C, you have the -d and other options, but what do I compile? I'll say compile, sorry, we'll have compilation for, oops. We are saying compile x.java, compile y.java, and compile z.java. You can give all three of them, then it will compile. What I'm assuming here, I'm assuming definition for A is in x.java, definition for B is in y.java, definition for C is in z.java. That's the assumption we have made. That's how you'll compile them. You need to be giving all three Java files. Suppose I don't give these two Java files. These two are not specified. And I ask it to compile x.java. Yes, it begins the compilation. When it comes to B, what the compiler by default will do is, it says, oh, I don't see any definition for B in my current file. I don't see B being available in the Java files which you have given in the for compilation. None of them contains the definition for B. Okay, let me see whether in the current folder do we have b.java. If I see b.java, I assume you would have the file, your definition for B in that b.java. The assumption by compiler is you are following the convention of file name matching class name, is what is assumed by the compiler by default. So if you got b.java containing the definition for B, it won't complain. It's able to compile that. It's locating b.java and saying, okay, I'm compiling it. You have only said compile a.java. It's compiling B, and it's also for C, it will look for C.java. But you put it in Z. I don't find this. So either give them in command line argument all the things, all the dependent Java files, or else. So,
We can't do
yeah.
this.
So normally we follow file name matching type name. Fine. Clear why it should be done?
Servers always compile one by one.
Yeah.
Servers always compile
Servers will compile only
one file at a time.
servers.
Tomcat, JBoss. This is
They're
why
not compiling.
This type of commands are available.
They're not compiling. They're not going to compile
I
anything.
mean, they will load one by one, and that is how it is going.
Any class will always classes one by one. Yeah, it's loading all the classes wherever it is necessary.
No, but
Yeah.
if we do such things in real life, right?
Mhm.
Like class A next or Java.
See, once the things are compiled, you may have kept them. You have the B and C in a file not matching the class name. That means you wanted them to be non-public. Okay, non-public. Yes, the way non-public is to be there, it's there. But whether compilation is not the job of the server. Compilation is the developer's job. The one who has developed the things, he is going to be compiling them. So when I give the command Java C, I can just say x.java. It's fine. When I write my applications which contain main methods, I'll only compile the one which has the main. All dependencies, let it locate and compile them. If I kept them in proper Java file names, it should be able to locate and compile all my files. I just compile my main. Dependencies from there will automatically be picked up. And if the file names are correctly there, it should be able to compile all of them. Yeah. Fine, this part is clear? Okay, so now what we can do is, I'll just quickly show you an example. Fine? When we have time, we can have a look at the example then. Okay, so let me switch this. So quick demo, okay?